Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Laura McDonald and Kelly Roberts on the advisory committee for the ARCHLight Summit in Dallas coming up in the fall. But before we get into that conversation, Greg, we got to go light thing, right thing with Satco, SATCO.com, baby. That's Satco.com. They do the light thing. They do the right thing, Greg Eric.
That's right. Everywhere you find lighting, Satco Nuvo has a lighting solution in terms of the different industries they cover: agriculture, education, health, hospitality, industrial, multifamily, outdoor, security, public spaces, residential, retail, workplace. I'm reading them all because they have so many of them, and I've never seen anybody define it as good as Satco did. So nice work on the application side.
They got it all. Go to SATCO.com. That's right, the gangsters of lighting, Satco. And of course, longtime members, Greg, of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org. Baby, get associated, get educated. Come on down. That's right. For right now, Laura McDonald and Kelly Roberts on Get a Grip on Lighting. Hello, Laura and Kelly. How are you guys today?
Doing great.
Very good.
All right. Greg Eric, let's go.
Get in. Yeah, let's get into it. We'll start off here. Maybe, Laura, if you could give us your background on who you are, why you're involved, and what you're doing, and then Kelly, you get to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been an interior designer since the late 90s, and my background is in commercial interior design. And but I've also had kind of several lives in this industry. I have an online resource really for kind of aspiring interior designers and students to learn more about this really, really diverse industry that we have, and lighting is part of that. And then also I've helped other interior designers with some of their marketing and PR efforts. And then for about 10 years, I actually ran an interior design and architecture focused trade show here in Dallas called MetroCon Expo and Conference. And it was in the Dallas Market Center complex, which is where the ARCHLight Summit is going to take place this September. So I was thrilled that they asked me to be a part of the advisory committee. I think I'm the lone interior designer in the group. Everybody else is but of course, I've worked with many lighting designers in my lifetime and will continue to do so as this industry gets more and more innovative and complex. So I appreciate people like Kelly.
On to you, Kelly.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having us here today. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm a lighting designer based in New York City. Had a background in theatrical lighting design and transitioned to architecture about 15, 20 years ago. And I'm a studio director at Walt Studio and have been kind of thrilled to be working with the ARCHLight Summit, mostly in my capacity as a leader with women in lighting and design. I've obviously first had a lot of experience with the Leducation trade show that's in New York, and I think that they are kind of using that as what they're trying to base their whole program on for the ARCHLight Summit. This kind of small, intimate tabletop demonstrations with the manufacturers, and also all of the presentations that we'll get into a little bit later, I'm sure. So my experience with Leducation, I've been going to that since it started 12, 13 years ago. And then bringing that experience into the Dallas Market Center ARCHLight Summit. And then coming from Women in Lighting Design, I'm both a member of the New York City chapter and been working pretty hard nationally as well, as we've been growing across the country. Part of the ARCHLight Summit's goal is to be really bold, inclusive, and diverse. And so we've been working with them on the programming to make sure that they are including a lot of voices that aren't normally given an opportunity to speak at some of the other trade shows across the country. And so that's what WILD has really been bringing in. WILD being the acronym, of course, for Women in Lighting Design.
There you go. So I know you guys are on the advisory council, but where did the idea of the ARCHLight Summit come from, or why is it a reality now, or becoming a reality?
Well, I think part of it is that there's Dallas Market Center has been around, of course, for years, but I think it's really seen a great deal as focusing primarily on residential design and the residential design market. But they're trying to really make people understand that, they've got 1 million square feet of lighting design showrooms within Dallas Market Center. And so many of those manufacturers with these permanent showrooms do also cater to the commercial built environment. And so a lot of it, I think, became an awareness issue, a desire to get more commercial designer and architect and lighting designer focus on Dallas Market Center and all that it has to offer. And so I think, you know, doing organizing this kind of event that has so much education involved, and then bringing in extra exhibitors that truly focus specifically on commercial lighting and architectural lighting, I think was just a goal of theirs. And Kelly, I don't know if you
Very good.
know anything beyond that.
Yeah, I think also the market itself in that part of the United States has been really lacking this kind of trade show. And they wanted to make sure that the market had an opportunity. I mean, we just had Light Show West that closed and now has been sold off. That was maybe the closest trade show that they had to that location, but even that was, last year, whatever, maybe guess not last year. 2 years ago, it was in Chicago and Denver, I think. So, this is an opportunity that has a huge market available to it. Dallas is super accessible to so much of the country, even to New York. I mean, now the fact that education has gone virtual, like this is going to be the first trade show since COVID has started. And they're really open to the entire country easily getting there within 2 to 3 hours. So I think it's just a great opportunity to kind of start off here, first year, and then just continue on, because I don't see them stopping anytime soon.
Was this discussed or planned before COVID, or do you think it came about because of COVID and all the trade shows that got canceled?
Well, I know that I think we were both contacted back last August or September to be part of the advisory board. So I will say, I don't know if it was discussed before then, but that's when we were contacted and they decided, hey, we need to make this a goal for next year.
Yeah, I don't think COVID had anything to do with it.
When you say August, you mean August 2020 or 2019?
2020.
2020. Okay. Does it have anything to do with it being in Texas and the fact that, Texas is a state that seems to have been, when you use the word progressive, how's that? It seems to be more progressive with respect to its COVID-19 restrictions?
Well, I mean, I will say that I've been really impressed with how Dallas Market Center has handled COVID. They have continued to have very safe shows. In fact, I went to Lightovation back in March. It had been delayed. Normally, Lightovation is in January and then it's in June. And of course, January, it was just too soon and they didn't feel like that they could safely do it with people coming in from elsewhere. They had been doing markets that was really a more local focus, and they had been able to safely do that because they're doing temperature checks at the door. Everybody's wearing a mask still. So I was a little tentative, I will say, when I went to Lightovation in March, because that was really the first big event that I had been to personally since COVID started. But I will say that I was very impressed. There were tons of people there because it wasn't just Light Ovation. There was a concurrent market going on. But I was very impressed, one, with the protocols that they had in place, and all the signage around, mandating mask use and sanitation stations. And like I said, everybody had to get their temperature taken. And then people actually followed the rules. And the fact, too, that, I don't think Kelly's actually been in the complex, but these buildings are so large and they have huge atriums. And so there's very much a spaciousness to them. And so there's a way to really separate out. And I will say, I really never felt uncomfortable at all the entire time. And I was a little nervous that maybe people didn't want to follow the rules because it is Texas and that tends to happen here. But I will say that people were really doing what they needed to be doing. And if that is still the case, come September, I'm planning an event actually at Dallas Market Center in August. So that's why I was thinking of that. Then, we'll roll with it. So I think there's a way to do it. And I do think that since Texas, it has been a little bit more, I think, open.
Progressive.
Yeah, there you go. Adventurous. Then I think it'll be a good fit, actually. And I understand, I've got friends that live in New York as well, in New Jersey, and I totally understand that they've had a bit of a different experience than we have down here. And I think part of it's just population density as well, and different types of housing and that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm very optimistic about it. And I've been a, COVID paranoid. So so I get it. I just, just want to communicate that I feel like if I was comfortable, and it's, hard to make me comfortable. I just started dining indoors just a couple of weeks ago. Now that I've been vaccinated and all that. So, but the vaccination rates here are actually pretty good. And so I'm real optimistic about it.
Kelly?
Yeah, I think that it's less that it's in Texas and more about the fact that they have this fabulous place to have the trade show with the Dallas Market Center. I have been there once, actually, Laura, but it was many years ago to one of the showrooms that you were describing. And just walking around, I remember just multiple floors with these open atriums and just feeling very safe. So I would imagine going in there now. I know that the DMC is following the the CDC guidelines, so they're not necessarily taking their advice from the state. And I think that allows people like myself coming in from out of state to feel comfortable knowing that they're really listening to what the government is saying and taking those recommendations into account. So, coming from New York, we've obviously, as you said, had a very different experience. I am not surprised that legislation was pushed off, certainly in March. I mean, there was no way that just recently we would have all gotten together. But Dallas Market Center is a very different place than the Hilton.
Just for those listening, DMC would be Dallas Market Center. We get in trouble for acronyms on
sorry.
the show a lot. No, that's okay. I just we get text, whatever you call it, comments about too many acronyms being used. So, are you guys engaging in any kind of voluntary assumption of risk waivers or anything like this that prevents, lawsuits to directors? I know that these things are starting to come out, so that if one chooses to engage in in-person meetings, that they're voluntarily assuming those risks, and if they do not wish to do so, that they then cannot attend the show. Is there anything? I know that this has happened with some sporting events. I know that the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, for those not aware of that acronym, had an event in, I think it was Houston, where the attendees had to a full inside stadium, like basketball or hockey type stadium, not outdoor. and the attendees had to engage in waivers surrounding voluntary assumption of risk. Is ARCHLight doing anything like that?
Not to my knowledge. They might be. I also think if you're going to a trade show, you've already made that decision.
Well, I don't know if it's as clear as it was anymore. I mean, you have the problem with this sort of thing is, so you take Laura, for example. You're saying that, you're quite aware of the different things, the signage and what people are doing. And there's people that will react to that totally differently and will see it totally differently. And what I've noticed over the course of hiring people during this pandemic, and also living in perhaps the most lockdown city in the entire world, that Toronto's been under lockdown for almost a year now. So that's a long time. People have different versions of what's happening, so what is safe or not to one person. Like Laura, you may think you're a 10 out of 10, but you may actually only be a 5 out of 10 to somebody else. How do you deal with the varying expectations as trade show managers of what is safe in quotations and what isn't? Food service, for example, are you allowed to have food in the service in the show? Drink service, things like this. How do you guys handle all these different angles? Either one of you can take it.
I think that's actually not a question for us.
No? Okay.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
As advisory members, we don't really get into the specifics of what exactly the Dallas Market Center is doing in terms of relying on the CDC for their COVID precautions, as it were. I do know that there will be food, there'll be beverage. There's an opening night party on Monday night that actually Women in Lighting and Design is hosting, and then there will be and that'll be the welcome party on Monday, and then there'll be an opening night party on Tuesday night that the Dallas Market Center is hosting. So both of those will have food and beverage. And other than that, we as the advisory board don't get into anything else.
That makes sense.
I know that the Dallas Market Center has a full COVID page on their website, and they have, ever probably for about a year now. And as things change and as, they get updates, they have been very good about keeping that updated. And then I know whenever I get emails about any of their events that are coming up all through the last year, they have always included information about what is expected of you if you are coming to this event, what is not allowed. And I think they're just going to continue to roll with that. So I kind of feel like what Kelly said, in the sense of, if you are going to a large event, you kind of have to assume that you're going to be comfortable being around more than 10 people at a time. So,
Right.
I would say all they can do is, follow the guidelines that are in place and hope that the people that are comfortable come, and the people that are not comfortable, maybe next year.
Now so as advisory council, let's get into what you guys are doing. You said bold, inclusive, and diverse. What are kind of sessions are we going to see at the show?
Kelly, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So Women in Lighting Design in particular, we have our welcome night party. That's more of a networking event, of course. But we're also hosting networking breakfast and breakout sessions on Wednesday morning. That will be kind of diving into some of the issues we face as women in the workforce. It's as part of our group, we always try and be honest and safe place to have conversations. So we're breaking into small groups to have that. That's kind of a different, it's different than any of the other presentations that are happening, because most of those are your more traditional, either panel discussions or some interactive breakouts, but for the most part, not this kind of taking everyone who's attending and actually bringing them into separate rooms to have a safe space. And then we have some of these other diverse conversations happening. We've got someone named Kevin Coleman coming in. He is running a diversity, equity, and inclusion group session on Are You Ready to Talk About It? So he's going to bring in some of these points of ideas that you can bring back to your office and kind of have a conversation with your business associates that helps everyone grow and talk about the issues that the country is facing right now and how your business can what is your business doing to help out? Is there a problem in the office that needs to be resolved? Kind of just bringing those conversations to light. There's also a wonderful conversation on queer perspective in the lighting industry that'll be hosted. That's a topic that I don't think I've ever heard at a trade show. So I think that's actually a really fantastic opportunity to listen in to those voices. I mean, there's a lot going on. And of course, we also have the circadian rhythm stuff, the well lighting. Those are the things you would expect from a trade show. But I think where the ARCHLight Summit is really different is bringing in these new voices. Laura, did you have any other ones that you were excited about? I know there's a couple.
Yeah,
more.
I mean, what I think is great is that I think there's about 36 offerings over the 2 days. So there's a great deal to choose from. And I think what's really interesting too is that so many of the sessions really appeal to multiple types of people. So it's not just lighting designers and lighting specifiers, it's people like me, interior designers and architects, and we're even trying to bring in students as well. There's a lot of students that are in architecture and design programs that I think if they had the opportunity to be exposed to more lighting education and the amazing breadth of technology and innovation that's in lighting today, then they would actually get converted and bump out of just the pure built environment and go into so we're really trying to attract those kind of people as well. So I think it's great that part of what I think they really wanted this advisory council for is to say, hey, yes, we can bring in these lighting specific educational sessions, but what else, as business owners, as principals and leaders within your organizations, um, as frankly just people in the world in a almost post-pandemic world, what are topics that are also really important to you that are just that are beyond lighting and can really appeal to a great deal of people in the built environment. And so I think that's we'll pat ourselves on the back a little bit. I think we've done a really good job of helping to guide that. And of course, the organizers did a lot of the heavy lifting. We had some contacts, of course, that we put them in contact with. And especially the lighting designers on the team had really the specifics on lighting topics. But as far as general knowledge that could apply to everybody, I think we've done a really nice job to bring in something very different that's not only lighting focus, but has additional topics.
Nice. And I see on here, and we'll promote it on our site and everything, but it's starts Monday, September 20th and goes till Wednesday. Really, it's 2 full days of content. The Monday night is a party, but the 2 full days, it looks like every half hour. How does that format work? Are they half-hour sessions, or you pick one and skip one, or how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, they'll be overlapping. So you pick one that you might be interested in, and then they range from a 60-minute to a 90-minute presentation, depending on what you're attending. So
Okay. And I think 2 days is the right number. That's something, we bounce around a lot with going to or we used to with going to shows, and I always felt like 2 days was plenty. You time it out.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And what type of who are you guys trying to get to go to this show? Is it anybody in lighting? Is it owners of lighting companies? Is it what's your lighting designers? Where are you at on that?
I think everyone in the entire marketplace is invited and encouraged to attend. If I understand, and I'll let Laura speak about this a little bit more, but I think that there's some lack of connection between the lighting design community and the architecture and interior design community in Dallas. And so I know that we would like to use this show to kind of bring those groups together, to the architects and interior designers, kind of explain what is lighting, what is important about lighting, why do you need to use a lighting designer, or if not, what are your manufacturers offering you, and what information do you need to be asking them for? I mean, that's usually why you want to use a lighting designer. They know the questions to ask. That's my own selling point, right? And so we're actually, I'll mention, they're doing this really great connect. They're bringing in the Light Collective. They're a UK-based group, and they're doing this kind of design DNA attraction that's going to be on the opening on the Tuesday night party that will actually create a family tree connecting interior designers, architects, lighting designers, letting them see how they are similar and allowing them to kind of use those connections to interact and network. So you're not just starting from scratch as you're kind of walking into the place and trying to figure out what you're all about. You can actually connect with someone because you both went to school in St. Louis or something. And that just gives you a starting place for networking, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that's going to manifest itself, because right now I can't picture it and as far as physically, like how that's going to happen. But I know that it's been successful within the lighting industry and what maybe some of the European shows. But what's nice, of course, is because we are trying to attract architects and interior designers to this thing. They're incorporating, of course, that demographic. And I think it'll be interesting to see just, it's going to be probably not the 6 degrees of separation. It's going to be the 2 degrees of separation of how everybody probably knows each other, or knows somebody who knows somebody. And, but yeah, I do feel like, I've planned a lot of events for the interior design and architecture industry, but I will say we've always had a hard time, attracting lighting designers specifically. And so I'm actually really excited that this exists, because I really think with now everything is so complicated, and as um, more and more people focus on, you know, the well building standard, and lead just becomes more of a common thing. Um, we all can't absorb all of that knowledge and have it in our head all the time. And so we need each other. We've got to work together to make these projects be the best that they can be for our clients and for the public. So I just think this is kind of a long overdue um, event that has the potential to really grow and bring more of these groups together.
The itinerary is interesting. It's like 75% typical lighting show, in 2021. And then you have the beyond lighting stuff sort of factored in. Can you explain for the audience, like I've never heard that term before, beyond lighting. I think it's interesting. What do you mean? Is it an extension? Do you mean just mixing in topics that are not typically discussed at a lighting trade show, that are not lighting related? Tell me a little bit more about what you mean when you say beyond lighting. Laura, I think you brought it up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see it as, of course, lighting is the main focus, but with everything that we've all been through in the last year, there are so many more important topics that really need to be discussed. And I think more and more, with people working from home and not being in the office and part of, closer knit teams, your people that I've been talking to, and myself included, have felt a bit disconnected from our fellow colleagues. And then, of course, with all the racial justice as being dominant in the news and dominant in our minds, you know, you can't really just push that away. That is part of what's happening in the world, and therefore that's part of what's happening in our industry, and it really needs to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed in the workplace. And there are some firms out there, some large architectural firms, who are doing some great work in that arena. And so those are some of the sessions that we have brought in. Smith Group specifically, they're a powerhouse architectural and interior design firm that have locations, all over the states. And they have done some amazing work in this space. And so it's kind of like, why not bring those guys in to have some panel discussions that can help other firm owners and managers and principals to really understand how to work with some of these topics and why they're important. Um, so I mean, I just feel like, especially since this is one of the first in-person events since the pandemic started, I kind of feel like we felt like we had a bit of a responsibility to do things differently and to recognize what was going on in the world, and therefore our industry, and to reflect that back in programming.
Kelly, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think she's hit it right on the head. That's exactly what we felt was our responsibility. Is a great word to use, to make sure that these conversations were happening and being given the importance of being part of a trade show. So I think it gives them some extra oomph, as it were, to have these panelists and presentations that will delve into this information.
Who actually owns the show?
Dallas Market Center does.
Okay. And then they have the advisory committee to help them formulate the plan. That's what you guys are doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And I know they also do Light Ovation, as you mentioned, and that happened in March. What kind of attendance was there? You said there were a lot of people. Did they rate it from the previous year? Was it X% down, or do you know where that was at, out of curiosity?
I don't know the metrics on that. It seemed, like I said, it seemed like it was pretty well attended to me, but like I said, there was another event going on concurrently, though most of that event was happening in a different building, but the buildings are connected, so there's a lot of back and forth. But I have a feeling that the June show, that's coming up, yeah, that's next month. It's hard to believe it's May. Um, that I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty well attended. And they did tell us one metric that, um, with the other shows, going on and them opening up, that traffic to Dallas Market Center by designers specifically has been up quite significantly since March of 2019. So I think there was a lot of pent up demand, of, wanting to actually be able to go and touch things and see things in person and talk to representatives in person, besides being stuck online and trying to specify from online sources. Um, so, like I said, I feel like that they've had a lot of good experience with handling the public and customers coming in, And that's the only reason that I'm actually working with them to do my an event that I'm helping out with in August, because I'm comfortable there. Had it been another venue, I'm not sure I would have even attempted to do it.
And now, are you guys going to have a trade show for the vendors that show up or the exhibitors? Is there actually going to be a trade show floor? Because as I understand, Dallas Market Center is one place I haven't been yet. Mike, you and I haven't gone there. I think we were about to last year before things happened. But people that they have their own showrooms. So is that what they're going to be able to demonstrate, or are they going to actually have booths that they can show, or there no trade show at all?
There will be the floor of the atrium will be completely turned into kind of the smaller booths, 10-foot table type setups that we're kind of used to seeing at some of these smaller trade shows. Most of the showrooms will actually be closed for a majority of the time, unless they're being used for, we have a couple presentations that are actually specific on learning a little bit more about controls or about color, and those will utilize the showrooms, the fixtures that are there, or the control systems that are there to help people get hands-on approach to learning. But for the most part, by closing the showrooms, you put all of the exhibitors on kind of the same footing. So it gives a really nice opportunity for anyone who doesn't have a showroom to feel comfortable and to feel like they're actually getting the same amount of promotion and visibility as everyone else.
Good. And I know it's still, 4 months away, and maybe you don't have this information, but out of curiosity, do you know what registration is looking like currently?
I think they just opened attendee registration. Was it late last week or today? Oh, it was May 1st. Okay.
I think it was May 1st. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have any data on who has registered thus far, but I believe that we're planning for about 400 to 700 people as far as attendees go.
What's the capacity of the Dallas Market Center?
Oh my gosh. You can have thousands and thousands of people there. I don't know, but I mean, you could probably have if I had to guess, and this is purely a guess,
Sure.
I would think you could have, upwards to about 15,000 people there. No problem.
Are you guys going to require proof of vaccination for attendees?
I have not heard Dallas Market Center say anything about that.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious to people listening. A lot of people are dying to get to a show. I know that a lot of people are interested, and you certainly have, if I may use the word diverse listing of what do you call them, track sessions or presentations. And so if you're out there, check out ARCHLight.com. That's ARC with an H, ARCHLIGHTSUMMIT.com. Is there any final thoughts for the listeners, Kelly?
I just think that I am super excited to be going to a trade show. I'm coming from New York just to see it and to actually hold some light fixtures in my hands and see a lot of new things. And I cannot wait. So I really hope that everyone else will experience that too.
Laura.
I agree. I would really like to encourage, even if you're not a lighting designer, if you're an interior designer like me or an architect or a student out there who's interested in learning more about lighting, we would love to have you. I want to just reiterate that we feel confident that everything's going to be done safely. We'll make it happen, and it's going to be a great show.
And I like to reiterate that lighting design is the heart of interior design. So if you're an interior designer and you don't know anything about lighting, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Folks, if you made it to the end, on behalf of Laura, Kelly, and Greg Eric, I'm here to say thank you for listening. We love you guys. Of course, you got to check out the Gangsters of Lighting, Satco. Go to satco.com. That's satco.com, Greg Eric.
That's right, and they've got presence at the Dallas Market Center. I know that because they were the ones who told us about it and said we should go there and do all this, and they're probably the one that, they have the residential side and they've got the commercial side, as we talked in the beginning. They've got all lighting applications covered.
Got it covered. The gangsters, they do the light thing, they do the right thing. Go to satco.com. And of course, proud members, longtime members of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's right. Where lighting means business. All you distributors out there, if you haven't joined, man, come on. You got to get in here. Get associated. Get educated. Go to naild.org. And of course, if you're hot for a trade show, you got to check out our ARCHLight Summit. The link will be on the website. How's that? Click the link there. ARCHLiGHTSUMMIT.com. There, I did it for you guys out there, the listeners. Go to ARCHlightSummit.com. Folks, thanks for listening. Bye for now.